Welcome to the Neckbeard experience. We've got some wonderful stories for you tonight. Some from subscribers, which I personally enjoyed, and other new ones. So I hope you enjoyed these stories. Just wanted to give a quick note. This was a lot longer than I thought it would be. Also need to give you a prior warning. If you guys thought the Booger Watch was bad, you probably want to watch out for the end of Wolfbeard. When he starts describing the wallet, you probably want to skip that part if you have a weak stomach. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll set up the story. Me, I'll call myself Yang, since that was the cosplay I was wearing on that day. I'm 5'7", not slim, but not fat, and fairly pretty. We'll call the nerd Neckbeard Dragon Ball. He was short, plump, and sweaty. This all happened shortly after I turned 16. A bookstore near me was selling a lot of nerdy stuff, manga, video games, and was having a cosplay event. They have sales, a cosplay contest, a smash tournament, you get the picture. And it's also part of a strip mall. Across the parking lot to the left is a Burger King. I arrive, park, and I text my friend that I'm there. He says that he and our group of friends are getting lunch at the Burger King, so I make my way across the parking lot. It's a fairly short walk, but halfway though, I hear someone running coming up behind me. It's Dragon Ball. I'm a fairly shy person, but always try to be polite, and I can see from his Dragon Ball Z t-shirt that he's here for the event too. He greets me.
Hi, nice to meet you. I love your cosplay.
And he walks with me. I'm creeped out a bit at this point because he ran so hard to catch up with me, and he's out of breath. As we walk, he keeps getting really close to me, touching my arm, and talking with me about stuff I don't remember, because this was almost 3 years ago now. I think it was something like,
I'm excited because there's going to be a voice actor from the Dragon Ball Z series there.
I kept trying to put a gap between us, but he kept getting really close. At this point, I'm power walking as fast as I can, and he's panting and jogging to keep up with me. Then he asked me,
So, where are you going?
And I tell him,
I'm going to Burger King to meet up with some friends.
Thus making him aware that I am not alone. He walks into the restaurant, and boy, I've never been happier to see my friends. In high school, I mostly had guy friends. So sitting at the long table right in front was probably like 11 guys. They're all fairly nerdy, and a couple of them are 6 foot tall or more. So I make eye contact and I mouth,
Help me.
They get the message. I sit at the end of the table. That's half booth on the booth side. He stands at the end of the table and kind of behind me. I'm mushing myself as close to my friends as I can, and they start talking to him to distract him. My best friend is sitting kind of in the middle, so I asked if I can sit next to him. My friends oblige, and Dragon Ball kind of moves with me, behind me. But again, I'm sitting booth side. I guess he got the hint, because he went to get himself some food. He would occasionally stare at me throughout the rest of the day, but I kept near the biggest, scariest looking one of my friends. We had a pretty good day, but now I carry mace on my keys. This had to be in my junior year in high school. I think I was 16 at the time when the main event took place, but I'll get to that. Now, a little about me. I love filmmaking. Seriously, any question you have about any movie, I could not only answer it, but I can also give you a story about the behind the scenes of it. I was pretty beta. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I spent a lot of time writing and looking up trivia on IMDb. Anyway, for 2 years I've been taking film class as an elective with one of my great friends. Let's call her Sally, as her favorite movie was The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now Sally was a year older than me and was what I jokingly called a hall breed. She was a mixed race kid, her father being white and her mother being hardcore Japanese, both extremely pleasant people. I would rip on her for that, and she'd rip on me for being Jewish. It canceled out that way. At least that's what we told herself. She loved all things Disney, and she even had an edgy Disney backpack, like the ones that you would see in Hot Topic. She wasn't one of the hardcore Hot Topic chicks though, even though she was a gamer girl, but she'd like it to the point where you'd probably question it. But overall, she was the sweetest person you could ever meet. Now, let me introduce the White Knight of the story. As much as I hate him and want to say his name, I can't give him the satisfaction of knowing that he got to me. So, for the sake of the story, let's just call him Filmbeard. Now, Filmbeard was like me in a sense, as he knew plenty about movies, and also comics, manga, and especially anime. And he weighed in at about 245 pounds of marshmallow fluff, huge ego, and a backwards view on women. Oh, and don't forget the beard. Holy crap, this guy's neckbeard, it could have been legendary if he kept it nice. It connected to his chest, and it took up so much of his neck, it was as if he was wearing a scarf. But the overall worst part about him, besides the fact that he dressed in clothes too small for him, was his snobby view of movies. Seriously, he would hate movies that were universally loved, saying stuff like,
Forrest Gump is stupid. No one wants to be watching a retard. Shawshank Redemption was unrealistic. A black guy and a white guy can't be friends. I don't like WALL-E because robots are not interesting. I can't stand Airplane. It's just too old to be any good.
and going as far as saying,
Empire Strikes Back was so boring and predictable. The prequel should be the standard for any good Star Wars film.
Here's an actual quote. He said,
The prequels expanded the lure, and it gave us visual effects that holds up to today.
They don't. Now, Filmbeard had a bad habit of loving movies that were universally hated.
Disaster Movie was great, and Movie 43 was an expertly written comedy. Plus, the first Hulk movie did the characters justice, and it was action-packed. The Son of the Mask, it was expertly shot, and it improved the lore. The Phantom Menace, it gives us commentary on what real people are like.
Most of all, he loved anime. Not for the storylines, but for the fan service, which he openly stated whenever he was in class. But the part that creeped us out the most was that whenever he was on his phone, he would be looking at pictures of, and it makes me sick to say it, underage traps. He would justify himself by saying,
They aren't real. They aren't hurting anyone.
We all knew he took time to research that line, cause that's what every guy says who watches animated kitty porn. So what made Filmbeard more irritating than what he already was that he would openly criticize the teacher's lectures, rip on the movies that we watched in class, and the film that he made, it was cringe-inducing, to the point that half of the class watched it like a horror movie. They would cover their eyes and their ears. One of the movies he made as a sketch, it had two heroes that rescued a girl from her goal-pursuing ways. This did not make Sally happy, as she was a feminist. Not the Nazi type, but the one that advocates equality for both. Filmbeard would nail all of the quizzes though, which stunk for the rest of the people, because they had to listen to him boast about how,
I will become the next Spielberg and win all the Oscars and get a load of money.
So everyone basically hated him. Now things take a turn for the absolute worst when his eye catches Sally's. You see, Sally had been sitting far away from Filmbeard, mostly because of the smell of his cologne and sweat, but she was unable to steer clear of Filmbeard's gaze, and what a gaze it was. The only good quality was that his eyes were a piercing blue color, thus whenever he looked at you, you would definitely see it. It must have been halfway through the first semester of my sophomore year, when he first tried to woo Sally. It was before class, and we were sitting at our desk. Sally and I were talking about the trailer for the new Pixar movie, Inside Out. We were both hoping that it would be the first good Pixar film in years. Unbeknownst to both of us, Filmbeard was closely listening in on our conversation. After Sally had said,
All I want is a good cry. If a movie can do that, I'm set.
Like a mudslide of sexism and body oil, Filmbeard slides over to Sally and gently places his hand over her shoulder.
If you ever cry, I will be there for you, my lady.
Sally looked so uncomfortable.
Oh, you must be her boyfriend,
he said.
No, him and I are just good friends.
And not believing her, he said,
Sure. Well, if you guys are not dating, you wouldn't mind coming to my house and watching Love Rue.
I later found out that this was fan service anime. Sally was not a mean-spirited person, and she didn't like being rude. almost as much as she didn't want to watch anime with him, and she said,
Sorry, but I can't.
Filmbeard scoffed, saying,
Ugh, why not?
I'm spending time with my family. We're gonna watch Battle Royale and have some sushi.
Again, her mother was hardcore Japanese. She also loved action movies, and Battle Royale was one of them.
Oh, cool.
Filmbeard said. Sally turned to me and said,
I gotta use the restroom. Be right back.
That's cool, I replied. Sally got up and left. Immediately, Filmbeard turned to me and said,
I bet you make her this way.
I beg your pardon? I said.
Caring about useless stuff when she should be trying to find a real guy.
Filmbeard whined.
It's jerks like you that makes us nice guys lonely.
How am I the problem here? I asked. Filmbeard just insulted me more, not giving me a clear answer before storming back to his seat. I wish I could say the story ended here, but this is only where it just begun. Over the next year, Filmbeard would try to hit on her, and each time she'd say no. And every time she said no, he would always come to me and insult me. Whenever he wasn't trying to woo Sally, he was always in class examining his wallet, which he kept in his shirt pocket. You could tell it was there, because his shirt was small, and anything in the pocket would make an immediate outline. This all came to a crashing finale when I was a junior, and Sally was a senior. After nearly 2 years of pining for her love, Filmbeard finally snapped. It was Monday morning, and we were all waiting in class for the teacher to get there. After 15 minutes of waiting, he was nowhere to be seen. We all talked about leaving. Even Filmbeard mentioned it by bringing up the classic line,
If the teacher is not here within 15 minutes, we are legally allowed to leave.
No one did, though, as there really wasn't much to gain from it. We primarily just sat around, going on iFunny and talking about movies. This is when Filmbeard saw his chance. He decided it was his chance to save the fair maiden from the clutches of ambition. Filmbeard strolled over to Sally and plopped his bulgy butt down in the seat next to her, and he said,
Hey, Sally.
Hi, Filmbeard.
She said.
Say, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Filmbeard said. This was an actual question that caught Sally off guard.
I want to be a writer and a director of animated movies.
She said.
I love them so much that I want to make some of my own.
Filmbeard hoped that she would say that. In comes the White Knight.
You shouldn't bother,
he said.
There's not a lot of female writers or directors in Hollywood. Plus, none of them are hot, so they won't make any sort of money. You should try being an actress. And since I'll be a famous director, I could always give you work and money.
He leaned in closer.
You know, if you're willing to do other things for me.
Sally quickly got up from her seat and said,
What the hell is your problem, man? Don't crap all over my dreams like that.
I'm just trying to save you, Sally, from your ambition,
Filmbeard replied.
That's all I've been trying to do. Women have a sense of entitlement and think that the world owes them. Those who work hard get nothing. I'm just trying to make sure you know your place.
Actual words from an actual neckbeard. Filmbeard tried grabbing Sally's arm.
I'm just trying to get you to understand.
Sally backed away and said,
Don't touch me.
This is where yours truly was brought into the scene. I looked over toward Sally and saw that she was rushing over to me. She stood a bit behind me, using me as a shield. She later told me that she did this because she was actually hoping I could be used as a shield. That, and she thought it would be weird to do it to anyone else. I don't really understand the logic, but whatever. I looked back and I said, What's wrong? I found out when the smell of cologne, farts, and chipotle filled my nose. I turned around and saw Filmbeard. He was standing about 7 feet away from me. Even at that distance, the smell was unbearable. He looked at me, a fire burning in his eyes.
Can you move so I can talk to Sally?
I saw the fear in Sally's eyes. The feeling I got from her, plus the rancid scent of Filmbeard, gave me a sense of courage, like Popeye eating spinach. I finally had enough of his bull crap, and I pushed Filmbeard off of Sally. Can you please back off?
Why should I?
He asked, as if he needed an answer.
Sally needs a nice guy if she wants to go on living.
He said it as if her life was in danger. If you think you're the nice guy, I must be the villain of this story. I always wanted to sound like a hero, so don't judge me too much.
You are the villain,
Filmbeard said.
She shouldn't be going for a jerk like you. She should be dating guys like me.
We're not dating.
Sally said.
We're just great friends.
Well, you should have told me,
Filmbeard said.
The way you two act, the way you're nice to him, you're nothing but a stupid witch and a hoe.
Now, I'm not a chivalrous guy, but I really don't like people insulting my friends. That, and considering I had a bad case of uneven emotions, I didn't see why punching him in the face was a bad option. Though it was, but not in the way that you think. Despite having 100 pounds of fat, Filmbeard went down like a sack of bricks, and something weird fell out of his pocket. That little wallet that he always kept in his shirt, it slid across the floor and right near the electrical outlet. I thought since he had to pay, I would literally make him pay. I stormed over to his wallet and I said, "You should pay for your actions, literally." I liked sounding awesome. I'll admit it, I was into this. When I picked up the wallet, I immediately noticed that something was really wrong. It was sticky and hard, despite looking like it was a leather wallet. My bigger mistake is when I opened it up. This is where I paid for punching Filmbeard in the face. Inside his wallet was not an ID, or a credit card, or even cash, but a treasure trove of pictures, hair, and a few tampons that all belonged to Sally. Some pictures were of her in the dressing room, others were her at work, some of her was just her head photoshopped on the naked girl's body. The tampons were kept in a nice little baggie that had red fluid at the bottom. The hair was almost the worst part, as it was clear and it came from other parts of the body. So you can imagine my shock when I found the clumps of straight and curly hair. But the worst part of all of this was the stains all over the inside of the wallet. And even the pictures had weird yellow stains. For you guys out there, I'm guessing you know what the yellow stains were. I dropped the wallet on the floor and I threw up. I was used to gross crap, but this was an overload for me. Sally looked at all the crap on the floor and looked horrified. Her face turned a dark shade of red as the embarrassment from everyone knowing that Filmbeard was a grade A stalker. The embarrassment overwhelmed her. Part of me wishes that she would have destroyed his manhood right then and there, but that wasn't her personality. She just broke down into tears and ran out of the classroom. That, out of all of this, broke my heart the most. She was, and still is, a great friend of mine. And seeing her that way really hurts me. I called the police while several classmates held down Filmbeard. He tried clawing for his freedom, yelling profanities here and there, but none of them budged. Once the police arrived, I and a few of the students made the teacher, who finally arrived and was hung over, and the police of the situation. Filmbeard was taken away, given a restraining order for 4 weeks, and spent 2 years in prison. He was 18 then, but he was tried as an adult, thank God. My ladies and my gents, since my friend the Warhammer tournament organizer is back in town, sit down, pop your regimental standard popcorn, and prepare to cringe. This was not a tournament that my friend played, but a game of Apocalypse, which is Warhammer 40k, whereas a normal 40k game has 2,000 points of models per side. 10,000 points per side is not uncommon in Apocalypse. Let me introduce the cast. My friend, he's the source of this story. Rick and Morty, 2 players who are known for their friendly rivalry and obnoxious banter at this store. They always play together if possible. Tom, he's a fairly quiet player, actually a really nice guy. He doesn't have much of a role in this story, although he does have one of the smaller Titan units for the game. Kara, a rare sight, a lady player of Warhammer 40k, and the subject of the Neckbeard's wrath. Neckbeard, he's our antagonist. No fedora, but he does have cargo pants, and nearly a triple chin, plus a gut to match. So the store we're playing at has occasional games of Apocalypse. The 6 have joined up to play. The Neckbeard, Rick and Morty, they're playing the Imperium, or the bad guys. My friend, Tom, and Kara are playing Chaos. These are the bad guys too, but they're much worse. Here's the first thing that the Neckbeard says when he sees Kara.
Sweetie,
What are those doing on the table?
What?
An excellent attempt to use heresy to cover that deviance, but nonetheless.
Kara has been used to playing against man-babies. She even makes a game out of it sometimes.
They're my models. I'll paint them how I want.
Well, obviously you know nothing of the lore, beyond what your boyfriend told you.
He gestures to Tom. I'm not her boyfriend, dude. Chill out.
If you're a 40k lore master, tell me about this obscure piece of lore about the Dark Angels.
The Neckbeard doesn't know. Rick and Morty start laughing hysterically. The Neckbeard just glances at Kara. No doubt he was thinking, how dare that female correct me? Was probably going through his head. My friend and Kara, they both know that the Neckbeard, he's gonna go all out, trying to destroy her forces at the expense of everyone else. So they start to whisper plans to exploit this. The game begins. Things are getting blown up left and right. Kara is Chaos Player 3, and she sends her Lady Marines up towards the middle of the board. She ends up damaging some of Rick's tanks. These female Space Marines are conveniently positioned close to the Neckbeards. Then he says,
Feast your eyes on my glorious forge-wielded Thunderhawk that will wreak havoc on you, pathetic mortals.
now it's the Neckbeard's turn. Then he says loudly,
My Thunderhawk is awesome. It's stupid how Game Workshop drastically increased the point cost of it.
a lot of stuff from Forge World got more expensive, thankfully just point-wise, due to its powerful rules. After moving the massive model and the rest of his army, it's time for the shooting phase, and the Neckbeard says,
All guns from the Thunderhawk are going to rape those female Marines.
What? Why? Target her tanks!
No. Obviously, she's been on Tumblr too much and thinks this is acceptable. All guns fire on those witch Marines.
Dude, just stop.
The Neckbeard grabs a handful of dice, picking out certain colors for certain guns. His roll was a complete and utter fail. He rolls 1s and 2s, with a few 3s and 4s. Morty and my friend start howling with laughter. The Neckbeard gets a little pink in his face, muttering,
Well, that was some stupid bad luck.
Only 2 wounds get through, and Kara's Marines make their saving throws. Now, the Neckbeard is visibly angry now, and he says,
Increase the dang points, but didn't make it more powerful. It's so unfair. The thing takes too many points now.
The Neckbeard uses the rest of his units to target Kara's Lady Marines, and he only kills a few of them, since they are undercover. Start of round 2. More bloodshed is had. Models are being killed off left and right. My friends Lord of Skulls are tearing up crap. All of the Chaos players are shooting the Thunderhawk when possible, severely damaging it, and trying not to laugh at the Neckbeard's whining when he fails his saving throws. Kara's turn comes up again. More of her Lady Marines go and fortify her position. Her remaining demon engines are really putting in the work this game. Since her Lady Marines can't really shoot at anything else, they target the Thunderhawk, but they fail to damage it. Cue more sexist courtelling from the Neckbeard. It's finally the Neckbeard's turn. After loudly blowing his nose in front of everyone, he says,
It's time for another round of rape for those Chaos Witches. All gunship guns fire on those Witch Marines.
Dude, stop it! Shoot something else! We're losing it as it is right now. Kara just rolls her eyes.
Hey, I'm just doing some penetration as their precious Slaanesh commands.
Slaanesh is the chaos god of sex. The Neckbeard really wants to feel validated by pretending to blow up 28mm scale models. He assembles his dice and rolls again. It's not as bad as his first roll, but a lot of 1s and 2s are showing again.
Are you kidding me?
You could hear him say this from 2 blocks away. The Neckbeard goes into full rant mode, screeching,
Why do these dice have to be so bad? Why does Kara have to have their models there anyway? Why do they have to be females? She's making me roll bad.
Yada yada. The rest of his turn goes a little better. Not surprisingly, all of his guns targeted Kara's models. Round 3. Tom is going first with the Black Legion. Tom is really getting tired of the Neckbeard's antics, so he has his Warhound Titan target the Thunderhawk. He rolls well, and does enough damage to destroy the Thunderhawk. Only Neckbeard does not remove the model. Dude, the gunship's shot down.
It's not dead. Yeah, it is, man. I did enough wounds. I'm going to kill more models with my gunship. It's not dead. Okay, it's not dead then.
The Neckbeard removes some of the wound tokens and keeps the model on. Rick, like the others, wants to get this game done ASAP. He blasts through his turn. My friend has had enough. On his turn, he steals 2 Imperium objectives, and then he directs his Lord of Skulls to destroy the gunship. Your gunship is toast, dude. Take it off the table, or I'm gonna let the manager know about you.
This is bull. Stupid Game Workshop raising the points of my gunship. I can't kill crap, and losing that cripples me. It's not fair.
Dude, you know about the rule changes, and you chose to bring it anyway. Quit whining and let's finish the game. The Neckbeard gets really mad, and is now ranting and waving his arms about, and screaming about how everyone is conspiring against him, and how Games Workshop is screwing Forge World buyers over, and he continues to say about the Chaos team,
You guys brought a female to distract me.
and so on. And in that moment, his elbow slams into his Thunderhawk and knocks it off the table. My friend said that it was practically slow motion, as this giant resin model was knocked off of its stand, and it tumbled over, landing horizontal on the top side, and shattering. The Neckbeard is frozen for a second, and he lets out a scream,
No!
and bolts to the floor, fumbling with the pieces, and dropping them in his panic frenzy, breaking them further. Dude. The Neckbeard just stares at his shattered $600 model for a moment, looks up at Kara, and his face is scrunched up with rage, and he starts screeching.
This is all Kara's fault. She's been distracting me, and she made every one of you gang up on me. That woman should be banned from 40K.
Blah, blah, blah. Forget this guy. We concede. Chaos victory. Everyone starts to pack up as the Neckbeard kicks his broken gunship apart against the wall, breaking it further. After that, he quickly scoops up his Dark Angels, and he packs it up and runs out of the store, starting to sob. My friend rarely plays at this particular store, but he keeps in touch with the people, and they say this guy hasn't been back since. Several years ago, I lived through a series of horrifying and hilarious events with a beard in the wild. At the time, everything I was put through was rather overwhelming and even scary at times, but now I can look back on it and laugh. I hope you get a chuckle out of it too. Without further ado, I will give you the first tale of Wolfbeard. I call him such because he has an unhealthy obsession with wolves. He was one of those guys that collected just about anything with artwork of wolves on it, shirts, blankets, tapestries, you name it. His obsession went far beyond this, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This will be mentioned in the story. I met Wolfbeard in my freshman year of university. At the time, he was engaged to my now ex-childhood friend. My friend and I have taken to calling her Miss Piggy these days, so we'll use that name for this story. Miss Piggy was your classic legbeard, morbidly obese, lacking proper social boundaries, and an extreme weebo extraordinaire. When I was much younger, I lived in the same town as Miss Piggy. She wasn't always a full-blown legbeard. Maybe it was the nostalgia glasses kicking in, but in my younger childhood years, I remember her being around the same build as me, slender and on the tall side, and despite being a little socially awkward, who wasn't in their childhood years, she was a super sweet and funny girl. We had been best friends since kindergarten. We only saw each other rarely, and our interests and lives changed. However, once I finished primary school and went off to university, with a license and a car, I decided to change this. With a vehicle, the 30-minute distance was nothing, so I began reaching out to her in an attempt to rekindle our old friendship, and in doing so, I ended up meeting Wolfbeard. At the time, Miss Piggy and Wolfbeard had been living together in a tiny one-bedroom apartment. Interestingly though, both of their parents had been against the idea of it, and they didn't believe that either one of them was ready for that kind of responsibility responsibility. They were right, of course, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. The apartment was in one of those sketchy complexes, you know, the one that you really don't want to be caught in after dark. The place was a dump, and the area was constantly filled with a cacophony, unsupervised children terrorizing the neighborhood, and white trash couples screaming at each other and slamming furniture around. I almost turned around on the spot before making it to Piggy's apartment, but I had been the one to make the plans to meet up, so I strengthened my resolve, and I knocked on their scuffed and dented door. I should also mention that she had not told me about Wolfbeard, let alone that they were living together, so I almost backpedaled on the spot when a tall, greasy-haired man opened the door instead of my friend. Wolfbeard was a big man, and I mean that in every sense of the word. He was tall, easily around 6'1" or 2, as well as morbidly obese. He nearly filled the entire door frame, blocking the apartment within from view. He had dirty blonde hair, and although he lacked the true neckbeard, he had a very poorly trimmed splotch of scruff right on his chin. This made him appear as though Shaggy from Scooby-Doo had really let himself go. He wore an oversized t-shirt with the print of 2 wolves howling at the moon, and one of those flat golf caps atop his clearly unwashed hair. But what was most off-putting about this imposing figure was his smell. His chapped lips pulled into a smile, revealing plaque-encrusted teeth, and a wave of horrific odor blasted my face. Vomit-inducing as this was, it didn't hold a candle to his body odor. In all my time knowing Wolfbeard, I don't think he ever once grasped the concept of deodorant. You could always smell him coming before you see him, and with someone his size, that's really saying something. Before I could scuttle away, Miss Piggy waddled up and pushed Wolfbeard out of the way so she could greet me.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I forgot to mention to you that Wolfbeard, he's my fiancé.
She squealed in delight, forcing a pudgy hand into my face, showing off one of those etched rune-looking rings, the one that you could find at Spencer's or Hot Topics. A little overwhelmed and caught off guard, I said,
Congratulations.
before entering the apartment. When I got inside, I had to stop myself from almost retching again. You see, Miss Piggy had always been a bit of a hoarder, even since we were children, but time had certainly not helped this habit, and what's worse, Wolfbeard was a lazy slob who had previously relied on his mother to clean up after him, so his mess just compounded the problem. The whole place smelled vaguely of garbage and cat pee. The living room was made up of a couch, coffee table, and a massive television that Wolfbeard had brought from his parents' house. Both the couch and the coffee table was piled with clothes, garbage, and who knows what else. I could really feel the impact of the clutter. The unit truly was tiny. In entirety, the unit was laid out in a linear line, one room connected to the next. It consisted of the front living room, then moved into the kitchen, and the dining space. The kitchen was pretty narrow, and it seemed even worse than it really was, as the mountain of unwashed dishes, coated in rotten food, took up what little counter space there was, and crammed opposite of this was a table that was functionally useless due to the mountain of crap piled atop. Continuing our glum tour, we had the piece de resistance, the single bedroom and connected bathroom. Based on the descriptions of the rest of the unit, I will let you imagine as to the state of this tiny, overstuffed room, and the smell from which it emanated. Needless to say, the apartment was disgusting, and it only added to the general feeling of uneasiness during the visit. From the very beginning, Wolfbeard made me incredibly uncomfortable. Despite supposedly being engaged to Miss Piggy, from the moment I entered the apartment, he was eyeing me like a piece of meat. For this thrilling saga, we'll refer to myself as Calamity, my usual D&D moniker, appropriate given that this whole experience felt more like a wildly crafted fantasy than a reality. While I'm by no means some sort of supermodel, I do try to put a bit of effort into my appearance. I'm rather busty, despite being slender, and I'm quite tall, a little over 5'8". My friends often make Amazon warrior jokes at me, but I just threaten to crush their skulls like sparrow eggs. I also love all things horror and occult, so naturally, I'm into witchy, alternative style, and I love to dress in dark makeup and clothing, so oftentimes, this puts off or spooks away potential creeps, which is great. But in Wolfbeard's case, it makes me appear as some sort of tantalizing mystery that he desperately wants to unwrap. He said,
You need to find a man. Seeing that you're into golf like me, Although, I'm more into classical. You should have a nice big guy, much like myself, to protect you.
Anyways, after bulldozing some of the crap off the couch, Wolfbeard made a sweeping motion to gesture Miss Piggy and I to sit down. Upon reluctantly doing so, I was dismayed to find Wolfbeard planting himself on the ground next to me, rather than his fiancée, leaning back on the couch, uncomfortably close to me. Despite the discomfort of his looming presence, eventually my nose was blinded by the lingering cloud of stench, and I was actually able to enjoy catching up with Miss Piggy. Despite having become even more awkward and overly invested in anime, she still seemed to be much the same person from all those years ago, and chatting with her was fun. It was odd though, and every so often, Miss Piggy and Wolfbeard would have these strange little exchanges. Wolfbeard would frown and grab his chest dramatically for a moment, or briefly clutch his head in his hands, before shooting a dire look at Miss Piggy. In turn, she pasted a worried expression on her face, and extended a gentle hand as to reassure him that everything was alright. I didn't know what was going on, and I assumed it was some weird couple thing between them, so I tried my best to ignore it. That is until right around nightfall. Noticing the sky beginning to darken, Wolfbeard dramatically stood up and waddled to the window. Once again, he dramatically grasped his chest and violently whipped his head away. At this, Miss Piggy shot up from the couch and bounded over to him, clutching onto him much like a pose from an old romance novel. Confused, I watched the scene beginning to unfold before me.
Are you gonna be alright, my love?
Miss Piggy softly cooed, looking over her shoulder at the night air beyond the window.
It's a full moon tonight.
Wolfbeard hoarsely croaked in response, dramatically turning away from her.
You can control it. I know you can.
Miss Piggy warbled, clutching him tighter still.
I should go. Just to be safe.
Wolfbeard whispered back. At this, he strode through the apartment in almost a slow-motion fashion. I imagine he thought that he looked really epic or something, but in reality, he just looked like some kind of wounded animal, hauling itself back into a den to die. Upon reaching the door, he paused in the frame, looked at me sadly, then with a sigh, he closed the door behind him. At this point, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what the heck is going on? And that's when Miss Piggy comes up to me, with a direly serious look on her face.
Calamity, I need to tell you a secret. Promise not to tell anyone. Because Wolfbeard, he could be in danger if you tell anyone. So please take this serious.
I paused, not sure what other horrors that possibly could be awaiting me that evening, but the curiosity got the better of me, so I agreed.
Wolfbeard is a lichen.
I was positively bamboozled, blinked furiously, as my brain tried to process the sheer stupidity that a grown woman had thrown my way. Mistaking this for me not understanding, she continued.
A lichen is what most people call a werewolf.
You're telling me that Wolfbeard is a werewolf?
I repeated slowly, in one last-ditch effort to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding some sort of joke or prank.
Yes.
Miss Piggy whispered, no hint of humor on her face.
Usually, Wolfbeard can control himself, but it's a full moon tonight, and he has to transform, so he's afraid that he might lose control.
It took every ounce of self-restraint in my body not to burst out laughing on the spot. I couldn't tell at the time, and still don't know to this day, if it was just one of those weird socially awkward games that the two of them were playing together, or if she genuinely believed him. But either way, what ensued was positively wild. Miss Piggy proceeded to tell me the tale of how she learned Wolfbeard's oh-so-dark secret back in high school, and how they had fallen in love, because she had learned how to tame the beast in his heart. Mind you, all the while this is going on, Wolfbeard had started making this ridiculous growling noise and knocking things about in the closed-off bedroom. After a few minutes of this, I could hear the sound of the window sliding and a resounding thud. At this, Miss Piggy quickly led me alongside her to investigate. I should clarify, they lived on the ground floor. In the bedroom was one large window that lacked a screen, and it opened directly to the parking lot. Well, lo and behold, When Miss Piggy and I arrived in the bedroom, the window was open, and there was no sign of our dashing, lycanthropic gentle sir. At this point, I had reached my quota of how much bullcrap I can handle in one evening, so I used the excuse of needing to go back to my dorm for school the next day, and I take my leave. I told Miss Piggy how nice it was to catch up with her, and that the Wolfbeard secret was safe with me, and I quickly gathered my things. However, as I neared the front door, before I could reach it, it burst open. Standing in the doorway was Wolfbeard once more. He's now panting wildly and dripping with sweat. If you thought he smelled bad before, he was now positively noxious. He also had what looked like some dirt quickly rubbed on his forearms, as if meant to convince me that he'd been out terrorizing the countryside. In the 5 minutes he's been out of the apartment. Feeding into his delusion, Miss Piggy ran into his arms and coddled him like he just escaped a harrowing experience. She asked him if his transformation was painful, and he just pathetically nodded in response. He turned to me with what I imagine he thought was collected coolness, and he ran his hand through his sweat-soaked hair and addressed me.
I hope I didn't scare you, Calamity. I know I can get a little primal in this moon phase.
Oh no, Miss Piggy told me you know how to control yourself.
I responded, knowing dang well that it wasn't good to play into their game, but honestly, not knowing how else to end the situation, before he had a chance to start up a new element of the game. At this, he held out a sweaty, stinky, dirt-encrusted arm as to expect me to hug him. There was quite possibly nothing else on the earth that I wanted to do less than hug him, so I was quick to dodge him, and I blamed it on not wanting the dirt on his arms to get on my clothes. His response to this is to literally throw his shoulders down and to pout like an overgrown toddler, and with 100% seriousness and no irony, he said,
Aw, sad panda.
It seemed to become a passionate mission of Wolfbeard to try to get as close to me as possible, and to try to touch me as much as he physically could anytime I encountered him. And believe it or not, this evening was not the worst part of my encounter with him. Oh no. Despite being engaged, Wolfbeard would soon decide that he wanted more than just friendship with yours truly, but that's another story to come. Thank you very much for joining me for the Neckbeard Experience, episode 21. I want to thank all the subscribers that sent their stories in, and also the wonderful writers at Reddit. I have to say, this is one of my favorite series. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like button, and I hope to see you again very soon.